Welcome to the Yankee Cowboy Podcast, coming to you from Dallas, Texas. Here's your host, Tim Wilkins.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. I am joined again, making his predominant awesome return like Stone Cold Steve Austin without the glass shatter. Chris is joining me once again, and I appreciate you joining me, Chris. The fun topic of today, if you want to hear about two amazing American kids talk about American values in this country, the topic of the day is, should American values be spread across the globe? I believe that's the correct topic. Chris, am I wrong on this one? Are we talking about that topic?
Yep, that's what we're talking about.
All right, because I mean, listen, I'm a Zionist apparently, and I don't chant stupid shit like "to the river, to the sea" and all the other bullshit that you're hearing on television. So today's topic is a fun one because it really is a genuinely fun topic. Because now, here's the precipice to this one, though, Chris. Are you spreading Joe Biden America to the globe?
Hell no.
Okay, then. So see,
yeah, we'll preface it.
So you're just what we're talking about. We're talking about I, as an American patriot of all Americana. If you forgot who I support, yeah, I just saw today, Chris. I have to tell you before we go down this awesome rabbit hole. I saw today someone drive one of those awesome contractor vans today that was completely decked out in Trump 2024 memorabilia. It was phenomenal. And the Let's Go Biden or Let's Go Brandon things, all the good stuff was all across this van. It was phenomenal. It was a great thing. Texans know how to show out and have a good time, especially when they know they're not going to get pulled over for like stupid things.
Yeah.
But, so with the okay, we're going to talk about this because I see. Maybe I misunderstood the topic when you brought this up, Chris. I'm talking about American values that are traditional Republican American values, which, by the way, I don't even know what those are anymore because our party is a fucking precipice of stupidity. Uniparty shit we got going on here. Mike Johnson needs to get the hell up out of there. But, we got the Democrats going to block that because, that makes any sense. But
he's a useful idiot.
Dude, I'll tell you, he makes a Catholic look, well, we ain't going to talk about it. We ain't gonna talk about religion. Not doing that on this podcast. Not doing that.
Well, let's hop in here if you don't mind me starting, Tim.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if I can find it here. I actually had it pulled up. So I don't know if this is I did a quick search of, and again, this is just an article I saw of from the University of Portland. I don't know if that's Portland, Maine. I don't know if that's Portland, that's Portland, Oregon. It's just the University of Portland. And I rolled through here, and there are a few general. This is from Gary Athens' book, "The American Way: The Guide for Foreigners in the United States." And these were some of what I look at just an idea of American values. So I'll just roll through here really quick of the just top line. I'm not going to go into what the paragraphs say, but the idea of American values: individualism, equality, informality, the future, change and progress, achievement, action, work, and materialism, directness and assertiveness, time, and time. That's the last one. Again, so these were some things I looked at, and I thought, I pondered of, what do we
just so we understand what side of the aisle we're on. You're against spreading those values across the globe, correct?
I'm not against in the traditional sense. Let's preface it. In the traditional sense, I am not against it, but this warped world we're living in now of so-called American values, in this day and age in 2024, do I think that spreading it to the world, which again, so much of the world already has has this mindset is already it's already seeped in as
Well,
is. I mean, if you go through Europe, if you go through,
I'm
you know,
gonna let you spray this argument to the masses here because I'm going to
yeah,
counter this, and it's going to be hilarious when I counter.
yeah. So let me go through each of them here. So individualism, and I'm looking at in the current state. I mean, individualism. Do we have individualism here in America? On the grand scale. I mean, the idea of the collective, that we're all in this together. That you know, that kind of Marxist idea of no matter how hard you work, we're all that whole idea of no matter what, we all have to be equal. The whole idea, you've seen that picture there of the kids looking over the fence, and that it instead of so-called, and that leans more into equality, the whole idea of equality, that, everyone's given equal opportunity given equal opportunity. But now we've got this whole Marxist idea of equity where, we're supposed to, no matter how hard you work, no matter, whether you have a leg up or not, or whether you're smarter, whether you have more financial means, that we all have to be the same. That whole Marxist idea of collectivism. um, Another one I was looking at here, when you think about it, it says achievement, action, work, and materialism. I mean, we as a society, and I'm looking at more of this, as someone who's, trying to be a better Christian, we look at it, of radical materialism. The idea that all we think about now, and I think it's hard to not do it, unless you have to catch yourself at times, and say, like, we've become a very materialistic society. We're the wealthiest country in the world, per capita. Um, but we look, how much is too much? Like, at what point are we too materialistic? I mean, whether it's social media, um, whether it's just the idea of you know people not being happy with what they have. You always wanting more, and a lot of times that more, and also not being accept, or not having the idea of you know the opportunity that you're given to live in a country like this. The fact that no matter when things are so good, people still find a way to say, oh, this is not the greatest country in the world. And I think we're seeing that, especially on our college campuses right now. So, the idea of that traditional, and I'll preface this, and this is probably not, I don't know if this is the most compelling argument. I hope our folks who listen can respond and accordingly. But again, playing devil's advocate here, we as a current American society, I think we are overly materialistic. We have lost touch with our founding principles of our country. Um, like, what are we spreading in around the world, to kids? This whole idea of, I think we all have came up and I think we all came up in the 90s and the 2000s, and the idea of spreading American prosperity around the world. And it's like, well, have we, you know and again, this is probably going down more the political path, but you know endless wars, and just throwing money left and right at causes that we honestly have no idea what the hell we're doing. um what have we done? What have we done, in the world recently? And again, I'm not saying that everything we've done has been wrong, but the idea that, you know are we really truly, in this day and age, really spreading what our core quality American values are, that people were brought up with in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. Look at the way our schools are. I mean, our public schools are hellscapes. We don't teach we're not teaching kids the American values. We're teaching them to be little Marxists who hate this country and want to fundamentally alter this country. Just at the core, like, what are we doing? And it's seeped into, obviously, our body of politic. It's seeped into schools. It's seeped into higher education. It's seeped into business. It's seeped into sports. I mean, every facet of our society has been overtaken by this anti-American, materialistic, really, and I'll throw us out there and say it, anti-God society. I think I'll stop. I'll do the Mark Levin, and I'll stop talking.
I let you go there. I gave you the.
Yeah, you gave me the Sean. You gave me the.
I
You gave me the Sean Hannity.
the.
He's let me talk. Except I didn't start yelling.
Yeah, you didn't start screaming. So okay, Mark Levin, calm down. All right. So here's the
Now be
thing,
quiet.
and this is the fun part about this. Okay, the conversation that we had before we started recording this message was the American values being spread across the world, and I'm not talking about the stupidity factor that's now going on in the country with Joe Biden in the White House, because I hate to say this, but when Trump says that America's lost our way, it's a bona fide fact, Jack. There is no question. The leadership is lacking in this country for a very long time before Trump got into office. It has lacked before, and it has lacked even after him. The problem is, if you look at the history lesson of this country, okay, we can go through the list of this. And I'll say this to everyone that ever asked me about what do you believe in America. America is God's greatest gift to mankind. If you don't believe it, you don't understand it, you can look up the history of the United States of America. Abraham Lincoln, let's go through the list here. The United States of America went to civil war back in the 1800s, fighting over a cause that was so universally just at its core wrong, which was slavery. The South believed in it because of economic reasons, not moral foundation, but economics. And the North had a moral compass, and they fought it out. Millions of our American brethren that died in over a cause that was so universally understood as wrong, but one side had a dispute. If you look at it now, since the 1860s and 1870s and Reconstructionism, the American value system has been universally passed through globally through World War One, how we bail out the United States or the European countries, and we basically keep the world going at the fingertips of what we believe in. Individualism at its core is having the understood values of you wake up every day and you have the equal opportunity to become a better person. Everybody has that unique, unalienable rights endowed by our creator, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is defined is by you, not the government. That's individualism. That is what at its core, if that's the American dream. A person in this country can wake up in the day and say, I want to start a business. And let's say you have a passion for, let's say, I don't know, you can ask anybody in this country what you have a passion for, and they're going to have no problem talking about it. Because if you're a person with values and you're the person that can convey those values, then you're an intelligent soul. The problem is a lot of people don't understand how to intelligently talk about anything that they value. They just watch the sheep that go around the world and talk and just follow people and just become a bunch of followers like you see on college campuses acting like a bunch of morons right now across this country, including here in Texas. And I'm glad I have enough bold ass leadership here in the state of Texas to say, hell no, we ain't dealing with that shit. Get the hell up out of here. Because it is bona fide stupidity. Fordham University stood for it, stood against it. Thank God for Fordham. I didn't go to that university, but that's local to where we're from. Columbia, a $100,000 a year university. Really? That's some comical sense right there. All these high Ivy League schools, Brown University capitulated to this mob rule mentality. That's not the American value system. That's not what we're known for. Now, we're talking about the history of the United States passing on values, okay? The safest governmental system in the world is democracy. However you want to phrase it, okay? It's not dictatorship. It's not anything else. It is by far
Let me stop there for a second.
Democracy.
Let me stop there for a second. Will we say democracy, or we say a constitutional republic?
Listen, I'm talking about democracy because Great Britain is no saint in this argument either of Americanism and the way we pass
very
our values. Because
absolutely,
because they have their own imperialistic ideas. If you want to talk about understanding history, they had their own. Dude, they divide and conquer the world, and they had their own plethora of good deeds. So it's one of these things where you talk about the American value system. It's talking about individualism, talking about the American way of life, being able to earn a living, not having You want to talk about the American Marxist. I don't believe in this whole groupthink mentality. I don't believe in any of that. Haven't believed in that since I was in high school. Since you know me, I'm a pretty outspoken, outlandish person at times when it comes to my view system, and that's perfectly fine. If people, that's the best part about America. I can say some outlandish shit, and guess what? The other person can say some outlandish shit to me, and we're gonna go about our merry way. That is the great nature of what we do. The worst part about it is when we try to spread our view systems across the globe and they don't stick. For example, right? For example, Trump talks about paying your own way. That's an American way thing, dude. That's an American way thing. I wish everybody paid their own way, NATO included. Pay their own fucking countries you're involved in NATO, your agreement to it, pay your own fucking way. Like, I don't think it's a wrong message to send. We're not going to be the get out of jail free card every time you have a war system. Like, sorry to say it, Ukraine. I don't really understand why we keep on giving money to a cause that's just going to keep on going, and you're going to basically give away half a third of the country to Putin anyway when you guys negotiate. Because, or what are you going to do? What Putin's not going to stop fucking bombing you, and you're not going to stop. When Trump comes in office in November, you think he's going to give out another handout for Ukraine when we got millions of people in debt here in the country? It's a bad look for him. So we're talking about American values being spread across the world. We could talk about, let's go through the war systems. The war that I think America kind of got themselves too far in over their head was Vietnam. And you talk about where America lost their way and spreading American values. That was it. If you look at that war as a whole, why we were there, any of that, that war genuinely went against what our core values were as a country. Okay. And I understood. Now, I'm not telling people that they're wrong for protesting. Okay. If you look at the reports that are coming out now with the people that are being arrested in Columbia and other universities, a lot of these people are not even students of the university. Okay. So I'm not discouraging people from protesting and doing it respectfully and doing it lawfully. But obviously things escalated to a point, ladies and gentlemen, where there was intelligence that came across and news reports got spread around like wildfire to the point where this doesn't even sound like a cause that's worth even discussing with people. Now, listen, I'm not even talking about how outlandish the idea is of what you're describing as you're a pro-Hamas person. I'm talking about if you want to be a pro-Hamas person, you go ahead and do that. You go ahead and do that. But don't you dare ban students from walking around the campus and actually taking over buildings, and don't do it unlawfully. You want to protest? Hell, Martin Luther King. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about the difference between nowadays and the American way of life back in the 1960s? They were fighting for the ability to do the basic functions you idiots are trying to do now every single day. And you know how they did it? They did it lawfully, or at least they tried, and they got arrested for breaking the laws on the books. And they did it respectfully. They weren't breaking and tearing their cities apart. I think what we saw, Chris, is that the American way of life drastically changed after certain things happened. And America right now is at a breaking point, because if Americans were actually doing something of substance in their lives, they wouldn't have the time to think of an idea to go start, protesting things, because they're too busy working, making money to feed their families right now. That's why a lot of Americans are against this whole idea of pro-Hamas. You understand that a lot of people in this country, and I'll just be on my soapbox here for another minute here, is that a lot of people in this country genuinely support Israel because they have ancestry in the country of Israel, and that's where they came from. It's not because we're some kind of Zion. We're not some idiots. You understand that both of us grew up in the metroplex of the tri-state area that is predominantly and has culture across the entire part of the northeastern part of the country, of the background history of the entire country as a whole. It have the Jewish population. So how are we supposed to walk around and be like this? You can't. We have friends, dude. We have lifelong friends that are like. Do you understand how stupid this sounds? That people are protesting in the ability of a terroristic group. Like, it is. This is where I believe that the generation behind us, Chris, is going to be completely just. I feel bad for people, and they don't learn American value system. Which, if you actually talk about education as a whole in this country, how about this? I talked about this in the last episode I did of the podcast. Eliminate teacher tenure. You know how you get incentivized? Graduation rate.
Yep.
You know, teach them the basics. Like here in Texas, dude, we got tests. You gotta pass this crap.
School
Texas,
choice.
Texas school choice. We're about to pass that law down here, my friend. This next
Yeah.
count, this once we get the legislative session started after the election, we're gone. We're off to the races here, and it is we actually, you know what requirement class here in the state of Texas is for high school? Texas history, because obviously we are the third largest state in the union, and people need to learn how this great state came to be. So I just don't understand how people can not want to spread American values abroad. I think people come here all the time. Do they enjoy it? Listen, people break the law to come across the border in Mexico and Central American countries. They'll come here for a better life. That's American value system, right? May not be great, but it's the reality. So, our value systems are worthy enough to be there. Now, is it currently our value systems worth carrying? Absolutely not. It is. That's just in the last 20 years, Chris, where our country has just gotten to the point of I'm not sure if it's implementation of what you call the Soros, the American Marxist, the mentality of, poor me, I got here because I'm not making the money because it's this guy, instead of taking self responsibility for doing things in life, instead of just blaming everybody else for what you do. How about
Yeah.
just it's how about this? How about women actually to have respect for themselves instead of going deteriorating their own freaking stupidity and I'll go and do OnlyFans and selling themselves out for what, a quick buck? Like, give me a break, man. The
Yeah.
society as a whole is a quick thing,
That's that radical materialism that I'm taught out that I was talking about.
But listen, there is nothing wrong with having things that you like. There's nothing wrong with that. If you have a taste, you better be able to make that money to enjoy that taste. That's all I'm going to say. If you like fast cars and you enjoy expensive cars, well, you better make a nice income to enjoy those expensive cars. If you enjoy high-end electronics that sometimes break down and cause you to not record a podcast, you better be able to afford the replacement for that high-end electronic. There's certain things that, guys, I don't really understand the younger generation. And I'm not trying to sound like a complete boomer, but I don't get it.
Honestly,
Where do we lose it?
I think honestly, and I think this would be a topic for another podcast. And I've listened more to things about it, but I think this should be one we should write this one down to discuss. Would be, you know, can we blame the boomer generation for a lot of the misdeeds of our country right now? I think that's one people should meld up.
I don't think so. I mean, listen, like, for example,
Ah,
I can't blame. Listen, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, you can't blame everybody else for your problem. Okay,
no, I agree. I completely agree.
like credit card debt. You can't blame your mom and dad for being in credit card debt, right? Can't blame your dad. You can't blame your dad for liking a hot woman, then getting her pregnant and having 3 kids with her out of wedlock. You can't blame like your
Uh,
parents for everything. You can't blame. You understand that the way we were taught. Yeah, I can understand what you're coming from there, but
let's share this one because I really think this could be another one of these. I take one side, you take another side debates. I really do.
I agree. I agree with you on that.
Let's share this one for another episode. But I'd definitely hopefully get some feedback from folks about what they think about this idea of American
Here's a
values.
great thing. If you want to protest across college campuses, don't restrict other students from getting a damn diploma at the end of the year because you want to be a stooge about it.
Yeah, I mean it's sad.
Listen, if I'm spending $100K and I can't go to graduation, you know how pissed off I'd be?
Sad, very very sad. Yeah,
I'll
I
be
mean
pissed off, man.
it's a shame and it's unfortunate that you have not only and I'll give me being here in North Carolina, I'll give I guess I did not even realize that the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill has a interim chancellor right now, but the chancellor actually, when they put the Palestine flag up, he took the flag down, put the American flag back up. But so props to the acting chancellor there at the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill for doing that. So and actually there was a group of fraternity students who surrounded the flagpole and were pelted with various things from protesters. But these fraternity students protected that area. Which, I mean, the fact that we're even having this discussion is just shows how far.
Well, that's the thing. People are not even educated. See, like that's what we're talking about, the American way, American values. Education is a very big key of that, right? So, like,
I mean,
listen, here's the thing. If you actually, and I think Mark Levin and even Hannity talked about this, on their radio show, which I do listen to still because I can listen to radio in my car, but I can't listen to Sean repeat himself at the same time he does in radio. But it's legitimately true that you talk to students, they do, like Lawrence, he did an interview and the woman wouldn't acknowledge the simple truths that are in the situation. Like, and when you can't come to an agreement on facts, then at that point, it's not even worth talking about. And that's where I understand the point of view on this is Mark Levin goes, let's lock them up, throw away the key. I really do. If you want them to be lawyers, throw them up. Nope, you're not getting your law license. You will be associated with this nonsense. Like, they'll learn. I mean, listen, you understand that a lot of people in this country have a value system. I'm not talking about canceling people for just simply protesting, because that's the case. Half the people will be canceled for Vietnam, for all the shit that they did during the Vietnam War. Like, it's one of those things where at its core, American values, we have a huge balancing act as a country. We do the teeter-totter at its finest. If you look at a teeter-totter, which is a very great playground toy built in the 19 whatevers, by the way, you Generation Z people, it's a great toy if you have a toddler to use, because he can, don't launch him in the air. Just don't do that. Don't do that. But it's a great thing. We have to play the game as Americans to the world and to our own value systems here in the country. When you have legitimately, like Ukraine, I'm not saying we shouldn't support Ukraine. I'm just saying I'm not a big fan of spending $100 billion of taxpayers' funding going over there. Oh, you don't want to put troops on the ground? Well, then we're stuck. It's like, reminds me of the World War II scenario with Roosevelt. He didn't want to put for the longest time, he didn't want to put troops on the ground, so he appeased and he spent money and gave arms to Great Britain until we got bombed in Japan. It's the same mentality. And that's why you have to learn from history. That's why history is important to learn as Americans, how we got to this point and how we can better ourselves as a country. And I hate to say this to everybody, that's coming around again. Because if you haven't noticed, Chris, not to get the political now, but all the young idiots that were once Democrats, and when we were like getting out of college, they're a bunch of liberals. Once they work for about 10 years and they go, I really like to hold on to my money, they like to be conservative and like to be Republican. And then, it's kind of how that world works. It's a big world turn. But I appreciate you joining me because, at least you didn't sound like an American Marxist, and I didn't sound like a complete, what do you want to call it, imperialist, and, all the good stuff. So all we need now is to bring out medieval history, and we'll start to sound like boomers.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. I appreciate the next episode. Should be a good one. I hope everyone listens on. Have a good weekend. Play some golf. Stay safe. If you are storm chasing, have a plan, and have fun.
Thank you for listening to the Yankee Cowboy Podcast. Feel free to follow us on social media via Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.